Whether you're a life coach, therapist, biohacker, invested in wellness, or in the healthcare profession, if you have an intention to work in psychedelic spaces, you're in the right place then. If you're called, get involved. But first, get informed. Let's talk the 4 N's: intake, intention, in-space integration, leading to deeper transformations. Psychedelic Coach Podcast, Tah and Kole. Walk you through the process, it's all possible. Leave space for the follow through. Most importantly, integration is not optional.
Welcome back to the Psychedelic Coach Podcast with your favorite female witty, Kole.
And your favorite male witty mailman, Tah. What's up, y'all?
Welcome back. So this is the Psychedelic Coach Podcast, y'all. We're going to talk about full body listening. This is something that is, I feel like people unconsciously know, and part of what we like to really teach and inspire our coaches to develop is a practice of full body listening. Tah, will you kick it off? What is full body listening to you? What does that mean when you hear it?
Full body listening is just like it sounds. It's listening with your entire body. Many people listen with their ears and their ears only. And full body listening it comes from the space of being able to listen, look, listen. We used to have something called look, listen, feel at the hospital when we're doing CPR, right? We're in the CPR situation with mental wellness in our country, in our world. So CPR would be an awesome space to start. Look, listen, and feel. And so you're actually listening with your eyes to see what a person's body is doing. You're listening with your ears to hear the sounds that are coming from a person, and you're feeling with your entire body. And so you're feeling the movements of another person. You're feeling the body temperature of another person. You're feeling what you're feeling inside your body that's telling you that the empathetic spaces that are coming from your body. It's listening with your entire body. So that's where I would start it with the full body listening. It's really listening with your whole organism, your whole body, every part of you, your skin temperature. If you get goosebumps, can you stop and listen to what goosebumps are telling you? If you get an itch on your neck every time somebody says something, you get this itchy feeling, your body's telling you something. Are you listening with your whole body? Are you taking notes? So that's full body listening for me.
When I think of full body listening, it's the microbiome in the body. It's, like you said, the skin, the temperature changes, people's tone. How does their tone resonate, or what sensations does it create in your body? Especially from a coaching perspective, if you're holding space for someone, what they say and what their body says, there can be dissonance. There can be where they're not even aware that they're doing something. I'll be talking to someone and say they're clenching their fist and scratching their face and kind of fidgety or whatever it might be. They might not even be aware that it's happening. And so I think part of the opportunity with a coach is being able to merely reflect back to someone what you're observing and what you're feeling. Like there's times we'll be doing an intake process with a client, and I can feel through the phone, because we just do phone talking. We don't do video when we're working with people, which seems counterintuitive when you think of full body listening, that you want to be able to observe and see everything, but you perceive so much more than you realize. And maybe this is another podcast episode, another time, where we'll talk about why we use phones instead of Zoom if we're doing an intake process with someone. But when I'm talking to someone on the phone, they might bring up something about their name, about when their mother was pregnant with them, about their childhood. And I can feel in my body their chest tightening up, or that's what I'm perceiving in my body. And I can hear the tone change in their voice. Or they might start talking really high, and then the speed picks up. For me, they're getting up in their head. And I might cue to take a breath. So there's verbal cues, but there's so many nonverbal cues that are happening that our body is picking up on. It's why it's so important for you to know your own stuff, because what helps me full body listen is being so aware of what triggers a response in my body, that it helps me understand or informs what questions I ask. So what are some of the immediate benefits that you see in learning this as a skill for someone that even just holding space for family and friends?
The human body, the human brain reads facial expressions, like hundreds and hundreds of facial expressions. And if we learn that a particular facial expression means a particular thing in our family, with our parents or with our older siblings or younger siblings, if we learn what their facial expression means for them, we can take that and apply it to somebody else. And so this is why not just listening with your ears, listening with your eyes, or not just listening with your eyes, right? Not just listening with one thing, but listening with your whole body at the same time, you can actually see where there are discrepancies. So if a person is frowning at me and yet their mouth is smiling at me, and smiles mean one thing for me and frowns mean another thing, and an eyebrow raise means another thing, and I apply that to another person without actually watching their breath and hearing what they're saying, I'm not listening to everything. I'm not listening to the full experience of what's going on with that person. I'm not able to be fully present. And this is where being able to have your own nervous system in a space where it is not just regulated, it is present, right? Like this regulate your nervous system, this regulate your emotions thing that people talk about. You can regulate something into not being in an observation space. And so being able to be present in your body brings you into a space where if something doesn't align for you, you can ask the question, hey, listen, I noticed something when you were speaking just now. You were saying that something felt really amazing, and at the same time you were frowning and your breath got short. So this doesn't align for me for the sensation, for the pleasure you're talking about you're having. Can you explain to me how that works for you? Because my ideas of pleasure and my face and how faces usually are from my context don't line up with this. Can you tell me more about this? And when you ask somebody to tell you more about this, they can stop and think, did my eyebrows? My eyebrows did. When people will say that to me all the time, my face didn't do anything. And I'll be like, okay, tell me what you're experiencing. And then people can put the poker face on, and there's a myriad of things that you can do with this. But what full body listening does for me is it opens it up for more questions of rhetoric. And rhetoric is a space where we ask people questions and they actually answer for themselves. And the thing with facilitation, the thing with all of the work that we do around psychedelics and integration coaching is I'm not really interested in giving someone advice. I'm interested in evoking and eliciting the greatness that is within a person. And that's the greatness about themselves physically, the greatness about their intelligence and wisdom, the greatness about what they can create, the greatness of them as an individual. I don't need to insert anything. And so the more rhetoric I'm able to bring out of a person, the more information they see about themselves. And the more information I see and the world sees about them. So that's the thing with full body listening for me is it actually guides my questioning on a person.
And when I take it to a metaphysical, spiritual, taking it a little bit into the woo-woo space, I'm also considering if I'm creating a container with a person when we're connecting, that how I explain it is it's also like spirit working through me, my ancestry, my lineages, the food that I've eaten, the animals I've consumed, all of that is also giving me information and data. And if on one hand we can say or believe that things come through in coincidence or in prayer or in a butterfly going by, I feel for me, what is also true is that prompts and intuition or instincts that I might feel where someone might say something, I'll be like, say more about that. When all I felt was a shift in their body, but I'm not trying to project what is happening like you were talking about. You're saying like, we're not trying to say it's good or bad or anything. It's more of the curiosity comes in because I felt a difference from how it just was. And being able to merely get someone to do the 3 Ps, pause, pull back, and take a physical scan. What are you experiencing right now? And that's also a term that we use that I feel like isn't used as often. People say, how are you feeling right now? But for many people, they are unable to express feeling. They'll say, oh, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling happy. But those are emotions. Really being able to say, what are you experiencing right now in your body? Do you notice any changes in sensation? I find it's easier for people to then tune into what they're sensing in their body as a vibration versus how do I feeling emotion and choosing something that takes them back into their head, if that makes sense. So when you're on with someone and you feel in that connected space, you feel like you're really listening with your whole body. What are some of the things that you observe? Do you ever notice or feel that for some people, their awareness of your full body listening is intimidating?
Yes, I think it feels, for some people, they'll say that it feels like I'm probing, like I'm digging in, like I'm, but how do I know that? How do you know that? How did you know to ask me that? People say that to me all the time. How many times have we been on intake calls with people in the past and they're like, how did you know that? Like, where I'm listening to a person, I'm hearing their voice, I'm also timelining things and asking them about, when did this first start for you? Could there have been a time in your life that this happened? And I'm also writing the chakra map, which is something that we teach. Writing a body map, a chakra map, something we teach at the Condor approach, is how to ride and read all these things. And for a person who has been in traumatic circumstances where they may have been physically abused or emotionally abused or mentally abused by another person, there may have been some abusive situations, they may be closed off to sharing anything. And so for me to come in, a new person who maybe, a lot of times when people see me as a facilitator or a coach, they put me in an authority seat. And so if the authorities in their life have probed into them and they became guarded, they may become guarded with me. And so it's essential for me to continue to bring in, hey, listen, I'm here. My every intention is for you to be safe and for this to be a safe environment for you. How can I support you in that? And if at any moment you don't feel safe, please let me know, because I'd like to back off. And this is the radical consent space, and this is part of the listening. If somebody starts to get off, if I notice some tension in their voice, or if I notice that their answers are getting a bit short, I back off and I check in. Hey, checking in on your safety. How's your safety right now? Are you still safe? Feeling safe with me? And if they say no, all right, what would support you in being safe? How can you make yourself safe right now? What do you need? And I'm always leaving in the sovereignty space of them creating their own safety. Because when a person is sovereign in their safe space, they are usually able to open up more. And so this is one of the things that I've found plenty of times, that people will be like, you're getting deep past and I don't feel safe. And that's the thing that comes up.
And you brought up a really important point. It's the first thing we teach in the training, helping people to even know what safety is. Because the terminology you're using right now, I could imagine if someone's listening and they're like, asking someone if they're safe, if someone doesn't know what that is, I think part of the responsibility or the opportunity of a coach is to be able to help someone in developing even a baseline language of what safety is to them. Because like at our last training, the majority of people had no idea they hadn't been safe until they were in an environment where they felt a little bit of safety, so they could distinguish the difference. And so being able to create a language with someone ahead of time, which is why intake calls are so important, is that gives you also a chance to lean in with someone at the beginning of the call to say what your intention is, and also letting them know you're still the driver of the bus here. You are still the one in charge of this experience. So if at any point this gets to feel like too much or is too much, we've had people call us while they're filling out the form like, bro, I'm not okay. This is intense. And we've had to guide people even in that process. And we've had to learn that not everyone, we knew not everyone's safety looks the same, but putting more intentionality on the front end to give people a language of, hey, if there's a question that's really uncomfortable, express that, say that. Because it's not that you have to answer the question, but part of us developing this relationship is honesty and being able for you to know that your voice is welcome here.
Yeah.
And that your safety is welcome here. So even if in a moment you just you don't feel like answering, just say, hey, can we pause for a minute? And I'll do the same if I feel like we would benefit from some breaths together, then I'm also going to invite us to pause for a minute. Because like you were saying, too much too fast will bring up trauma responses in people, or at least sequences can start to come online. Maybe they're not going into a full trauma response, but they are becoming reactive to something. And it's far more effective and efficient to pause before you continue forward and end up getting deep into it or tripping a wire that just really brings the walls up or pulls up the drawbridge of sorts. And I've had people who were nervous in giving their personal information because in the past people used it as a weapon. They used it against them. Knowing that personal information, they'd bring it up later in a coaching session. Oh, yeah, I remember because you said your mom hit you when you were little. But that's not actually supportive all the time. There is a time and a place for bringing up information, but you have to be really clear in the intention of someone's personal information and what you're being privy to, because I have watched coaches use someone's personal information as a weapon.
So have I. And this is part of breaking rapport. And establishing rapport at the beginning of a relationship is tremendously important. And part of that rapport for me and for us has been trust. It's, listen, your information stays here. We do not use your information or share your information without your permission. And if you want us to share your information, you need to give it to us in writing. So you might as well tell them yourself. And so this is a really important space of building rapport and keeping rapport with people. And we don't keep secrets over here. However, we do honor privacy and confidentiality. And that's really important. The information that is being shared with me is someone else's information. And because they deliver it to me doesn't mean it's my information. I have information that somebody else has yielded to me. Mm-hmm. And that's an important space to establish rapport and trust, and never use information as a weapon. Please, y'all, as coaches, as just human beings, don't use somebody's information against them. I don't like to tell people don't do something, and there's very few things that I say don't do that. Don't do that. Don't use someone's information against them and to weaponize. That's stooping to a really low level, and low as far as low on the cool scale. And I don't like to put things in hierarchies, but that's not cool, y'all. Don't use somebody's information against them. That's not cool. Don't weaponize. This is part of what we've been working to support people in, is being in a safe space. And if you weaponize their information against them, they may have an even more challenging time being safe with anyone, even without you. And if a person's not your client, they're not your client. Let them go be with somebody else. You don't have to weaponize things to keep them with you so that your money keeps coming in your direction.
And look, and there's a lot to unpack just with that. Like that, again, that's a whole other conversation around privacy, confidentiality. We have done podcasts on the past on it, and it gets tricky sometimes, y'all. If you're working with a husband and a wife, if you're working with parents who are paying for their child for coaching, if you're like, we've worked with so many dynamics where I've had people get very upset with me because they paid for the session, they paid to work with me for someone else, and I would not release what we talked about in the session, and they felt like they had the right to know because they paid. You paid for the time, not for the information. And regardless of who paid, my confidentiality is with the person in the session. And we're obviously not talking about if there was acts of violence or abuse that's going on or something like that. So just to preface that, we're speaking very generally with general public, because again, we're not therapists, y'all. And we're not going to get into right now at what point would you call the police or report something. Like, that's a whole other can of worms that honestly, I don't even know that we would cover in a podcast, because if you have to start asking those questions, there's other trainings you need to be taking. That's all I'm going to say. And then as far as like techniques for full body listening, what are some of the ways someone could start to develop the skill and practice it that you do, or that you've taught people, or even a recommendation for someone that wants to connect deeper with a partner and start to practice the skill of full body listening?
Yeah, the first thing I would recommend to a person is to learn how to do a full body scan on yourself. Can you listen to your entire body from your toes all the way up to your hair on the top of your head, or your scalp if you don't have hair on your head, right? Can you scan your entire body, and can you breathe into each part and listen? What are your toes saying? What are they doing? How are they moving? What do they feel like? What does the bottom of your foot, but the ball of your foot feel like? What does the arch of your foot feel like? Can you put presence in that? Can you put presence into your heel, into your calcaneus bone in the back of your foot? Can you feel each bone inside your foot? Can you feel the skin on the top of your foot? Can you feel all the way back to your ankle? Can you feel both sides of your ankle and just go through the whole body, right? And can you breathe into it slowly, each part of the body, and scan and see what your body is saying, right? Can you listen to what your body's saying? Are there any aches and pains that you've found? Or is there any soreness that you've found? Is your breathing short? Can you hear your stomach rumble? Is there tension in your midsection? Listening to your own body, being able to see the nuance in all the cues in your body. Maybe do it sitting down, or do it laying down one time. Do it standing in front of the mirror, right? With no clothes on, right? By yourself. So you can actually see what your body's doing and listen to your body. Can you sit with yourself and listen to your breath, right? With your, maybe close your nose and open your mouth, right? Squeeze your nostrils closed and open your mouth and listen to your breath and become familiar with it, and see if you can catch the nuances and the differences in the speed of your breath as you're doing an exercise. Right? If you can see the difference in the depth of your breath as you exercise, what does it sound like when you put your fingers in your ears and listen to your breath? All of these different things are really important. Can you look in the mirror and see how many times your eyes are blinking? What do you do anything or say anything that makes your eyes blink more? But when you're speaking about anything, you can be on a phone conversation with somebody and just stand in front of the mirror as you're on the phone and watch your facial expressions, what your eyebrows do when you're talking about different things. And this is how I would recommend somebody start getting into full body listening. You're with your body all day long. You can practice with it. And being able to listen to your own body is tremendously important. And when you can pick up on your own cues, you'll be able to pick up on other people's cues more accurately. And you'll be able to see some very subtle things and subtle spaces that you haven't noticed in other people before, like your lip raising up when something is yucky, right? Or how you speak, or your head jutting forward when you're looking at something, or your shoulders raising all the time, or whatever. I was at a men's group tonight, and we were in the circle, and guys were like, "How are you picking up on all this stuff?" There's one guy who was sharing about one part of it, somebody in his family, and his face just started to get really red, and his breathing started to get short. And I asked, did you notice that when you started speaking about this person in your family that did your skin temperature change? He's like, yeah, I got really hot. And I said, did you notice your breathing? He's like, yeah, it got really fast and short, and I felt like I couldn't catch my breath. And this is the thing. I'm watching, I'm listening, and these guys are like, how are you picking up on all these cues from everybody? I'm like, I'm listening to their body with my body. And this is just part of it. It's being able to just observe. That's one of the things that in today's world, turn off your phone and just watch people. People watching is fascinating, and give yourself a half hour and just go somewhere where there's a lot of people and just watch people. Spark up a conversation with somebody and watch what their body does. That's what I do. That's the first thing I recommend with people with full body listening is invest some time. Invest an hour a week just looking at people, talking to people, and being present and writing down some notes, taking some notes. Just do it. And you can even ask somebody, hey, is it okay if we have a conversation? I'm just going to look at you because I'm learning how to read people's bodies as they move. And you can watch them hold back and give you the poker face because they're trying to keep themselves keep you from knowing anything. And then they don't blink at all. And their mouth barely moves because they're holding back. And then you can look at another person and see when they're actually holding back. They have no facial expression. They've actually been trained into that. And so listening with your body is a really important space. Like I've learned to do things like raise goosebumps on my arms so that I can feel a person's body temperature shift more accurately. Like there's tons of things that you can do, but that's where I would start.
I love that. When I think back as well, some of the ways that I started to perceive in my body was I would lay completely flat on either the bed or the floor and put music with headphones on so that I'm really getting all of the focus with very particular sounds that I can control, and choose different variances of music and then scan my body as I'm listening to the music. Where do I feel it? What does it evoke in me? Thinking of love songs you used to love, ones you used to cry to, and give yourself, see if you can find different songs that have evoked emotion for you in the past, but this time go to it with more intention to where else do you feel it? So if a song in the past has made you cry, can you lie still, fully immerse yourself in the music and seek for where else, like the beginning of the tears. Long before the tears fall, there's a whole matrix of things happening before it gets to the tears welling up in your eyes. And the more that I started to catch those little nuances, then I became more aware of when my own body is getting triggered or activated in certain circumstances. And so it's another great way to explore. If there's a song that you really don't like, where do you feel that? And it's not that you have to create meaning around the songs or the sensations. It's that, wow, I never noticed that in that song, I'd make that facial expression like I don't like it, but I also felt a heaviness in my gut. And I have some songs that have memories attached to them. So am I still experiencing, or at least in that moment, I am experiencing some remembrance of what was going on during that time of that song? Maybe it was someone I loved. Maybe it was someone I lost. Maybe it's someone I hated. Maybe it was someone that hurt me. Maybe it was whatever. That old version of myself I can still access. And I find that, especially if music really speaks to you as an individual, what is it like when you hear a song on violin versus something on piano versus hip hop music versus whatever, and use that as a way to start to explore sensation in your body by listening, and see if you can take with each breath, like opening your body to listening more, knowing you can always close it back up again. This is not something that you're just going to open and it stays open and there's just going to be too much data coming in. But I'll sit and imagine that as I take a deep breath, I'm literally opening myself like a flower blooming to perceive and receive more information than I had before. And to take that into ceremony and journey spaces has not only also helped me when I'm in a very powerful realization to embody it deeper, because I can actually move that excitement or that ease through my system because I've practiced it. Like I came in before the session to practice it. And then because of all those repetition, all those reps I put in, when I sit with someone, I can take a few breaths and get another layer of presence, really grounding my feet into the earth, opening myself to be with them without taking their stuff on, but merely to observe and perceive a lot more. Because even in your psychedelic experiences, you will notice when one person walks by, you might contract. Another person walks by, you may get more distracted than with someone else. All of those little things for me are these breadcrumbs of information that teach me about myself and allows me to hold space for people to explore that within themselves.
Yeah, that's a really wonderful share. Empathy is a beautiful space to listen from. And empathy moves not just through your awareness in your mind, it moves through the awareness in your body. And empathy, people be like, oh, I'm empathetic, I'm an empath, I don't know what to do, I feel everything in the room. Empathy is something that we all have. And some people have very highly developed empathy spaces, and it's developed, but they don't know how to actually hone it into a skill. And so it's just like singing. Some people are born with these amazing singing voices, but they don't know how to hone it into an actual skill. So they might be able to sing a certain way, but they might be a powerhouse if they learn how to hone the craft of singing. And it's the same thing with empathy, being able to listen with your empathy. What's going on in my gut? What's going on in my belly? How come when that person walks in the room, I feel this way? That's listening with your whole body. It's listening with every aspect of you. And so we have two different types of feelings. We have sensation feelings and we have emotion feelings. And sensations would be temperature, touch, smell, like all of these are sensations, right? These are sensual spaces. Pressure, heat, cold, all of that's sensations. And feelings would be your emotional feelings would be like sadness, anger, happiness, joy, frustration, eagerness. These are all emotional spaces, and they move through us and they actually evoke a sensation space as well. Somebody might be like, oh, I feel so loving, and there's a fluttering in my heart, and I feel all these sensations and these goosebumps on my skin. I feel the chills. You'll hear people say they'll have emotions. They will evoke physical sensations, and then you have those two feelings together. You have the emotional feeling and the sensations. They get married and they're integrated together. When you know how to read those things, you can read them in your own body, and you can ask other people what they're experiencing, and then see if they line up with yours or if they're different. And that's one of the most amazing skills about being empathetic in a space, is learning how to read those signals.
Reading them without taking them on, right? To sense them without experiencing them the same way. Because it's also, I'm sure anyone can relate that you might go out to lunch or coffee date or something with one person that when you leave, you feel drained. You feel completely like your life force energy was sucked out of you. But then you go immediately after to someone else that gives you life, or you go out and you didn't want to go and you were tired, but that friend, you have so much fun that when you come and you're laughing and you're enjoying your time together, it's giving you energy. Now, it's not a good or a bad thing. It's an observation thing. Because if you fill your life with people that are sucking the life out of you, at some point, the common denominator is you. And if you're trying to fix things, if you're always trying to be the rescuer, if you're always output, and then their input to you is all negativity and just life sucking, whatever that means to you. They're not doing the work, they're just complaining. It's time to have a conversation around boundaries for yourself, because you are still perceiving all of it. Now, I can hear someone talk about anything. I'm not taking it on. Not to say that I don't ever have a hard time sleeping because I'm concerned about someone, but I don't embody worry the way that I used to. And that's still a regular practice and process. But it can also, when you're doing this kind of work in full body listening, there is a potentiality of some intense experiences when you're listening to someone. So all open isn't necessarily the answer. It's an exploration for you. And if you're going to hold space for people, whether in a shamanic practice, in a ceremony setting, as a friend, knowing where those lines are for you, what is functional for you, what works for you, is really important, because full body listening is a skill, and just being able to take a deep breath and really witness someone is full body listening. But it is something that is always evolving and changing. And if you're not hydrated, if you're hungry, we'll often say that you're nobody without your body. And when I hear people say, yeah, this meat suit, to me, it's not often I get offended. I get a little offended, because this is one of the most majestic, amazing pieces of machinery and intelligence, from your ancestors to spiritual realms to bugs and biota and other vibrational things. For me, mushrooms speaking through me is how I describe it. That some would say downloads and whatever. That I honor the intelligence of our bodies so far beyond the development of my mind, that I also love and value, and my brain and the different aspects. But to sit with someone and say nothing, and for them to get teary-eyed and to feel that with them without feeling that for them, is, I think, a great honor. And I'm appreciative to everyone that makes the decision to come into this work, but know that just like working any muscle, developing the skill of full body listening is so important.
Yeah, I think this is not a negotiable skill. It's something that we talk to our coaches about, and we want anybody out there who's leaning into coaching or just supporting another person to be able to just lean into full body listening. Listen with your whole body. Listen with every aspect of you. You are somewhere between 40 and 100 trillion cells of human cells and another 100 trillion bacteria living inside your gut, right? There's so many aspects of us that are all working together to feel all these feelings and sensations and these emotions, all of these things working together to support one another in communication. I invite you to lean into it. Full body listening is amazing.
Love it. Y'all, I think we covered it pretty solid for today. If you have any other questions around full body listening, shoot us a message. Leave comments on the podcast. We talked a bit about what full body listening is, and we'd love to hear what it is to you or ways that you've developed the skill of, some would say, somatic soma body, some of the benefits and trust and rapport and why it's so important for you as a coach, as a parent, as a friend. You can use breathing, some of the music exercises I talked about, the body scanning that Tah was talking about, using something light like a feather, something cold like ice to first go to sensation in your body so that you can start to even perceive it, because you might not. I know that I spent many years being as dissociated from my body as I could be because I was in a lot of pain. But then when I realized I was in so much pain because I wasn't acknowledging some of the traumas and things running in the background and emotions I wasn't expressing, and physical pain was easier to be with than my other emotions and sensations, to find my way back in took things very gentle and soft, actually. And then it got me into exploring shibari and rope journeys and all of these other methods. There's so many beautiful ways to explore full body listening. Let us know what you do and how you do it and what you explore. Tah, any final thoughts for you around full body listening and coaching?
Yes. My thoughts are: listen to your body and listen with your body. Listen to the bodies of other people, and really be present with all of your senses, not just with your ears. Listen with your eyes, listen with your nose, right? Listen with your skin, listen with your entire body, listen with your emotions as well. Listen with all aspects of you. They're all so important, and I love you all so much. And please make sure that you subscribe to this podcast, right? Hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast. Share this with a friend. Share this with someone you know it'll help, and ask us questions so that we can bring you the information that supports you in your journey. Yeah.
That's a wrap, y'all. And of course, because you know we're going to say it, and if you haven't done it, go do it right now. Go hit that rate and review, subscribe for it so you don't miss any more episodes. We are pumping out social media like crazy. We're putting out like 5 posts a day on our channels, and it's increasing. And you might say that's too much. Guess what? Just scroll through. You have a finger with so much freedom to scroll on by and go to another cat video. Yo. Rate, review, subscribe, share it with a friend. We love you. We've got to go pack. We got a wedding to hit. Tah Whitty, you are magic. Like kapow. And everything I want is you right now.
I love you so much, girl. I love you. I love you. I love you. Thanks, y'all. I love you. Be easy, be free, and don't forget,
integration is not optional.